Welcome to The Art of Mind Reading, Unlocking the Secrets of Human Connection by Mindful Literary. This audiobook is your gateway to understanding and mastering the subtle art of mind reading. Through a blend of psychology, empathy, and keen observation, you'll learn how to read the unspoken language of others, build deeper connections, and enhance your interpersonal relationships. Each chapter is designed to guide you through the nuances of nonverbal communication, empathy, intuition, and ethical considerations, ensuring you use your newfound skills for positive impact. Chapter 1: The Basics of Mind Reading. Understanding body language is a fascinating journey into the subtle art of human communication. When I started paying close attention to the way people moved, stood, and gestured, I began to see patterns and signals that words simply couldn't convey. For example, a simple crossing of the arms might indicate someone is feeling defensive or closed off during a conversation. It's not always straightforward. Context matters immensely. The same arm cross could mean the person is just cold or comfortable. This context-based interpretation demands a blend of empathy and observational skills to get a genuine understanding of what those nonverbal cues signify. Became a bit like learning a new language for me. I remember a time when I was at a social gathering and I noticed someone frequently touching their face and avoiding eye contact. Initially, I thought they were bored or uninterested in the conversation. But as I engaged more empathetically, it turned out they were just anxious about meeting new people. By acknowledging their discomfort and offering a more relaxed and welcoming posture myself, I was able to help ease their anxiety. Understanding these subtle cues can help us better connect with others and navigate social interactions more smoothly. It's about being attuned to the little things, like a slight shift in weight, which may suggest impatience, or a genuine smile that reaches the eyes, signaling true enjoyment and engagement. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is to never assume you know what someone is feeling based solely on one aspect of their body language. Instead, it involves looking at the bigger picture and considering multiple signals in tandem. This holistic approach ensures a more accurate reading of someone's state of mind. For instance, when someone seems to be nodding while maintaining eye contact, but their feet are pointed towards the door, it might indicate they are eager to leave rather than genuinely interested in staying. Over time, with practice, recognizing these intricate gestures becomes second nature, aiding in fostering deeper, more meaningful human connections. Recognizing facial expressions is a cornerstone of effective communication. Our faces are incredibly expressive, capable of demonstrating joy, sadness, anger, surprise, fear, and disgust with subtle movements of muscles. As a child, I would sit and watch people's faces, trying to decode how they felt. Often, I found myself guessing, wondering if the twitch of a mouth or the lift of an eyebrow meant more than I understood. As I grew older, I realized that these silent cues carried volumes of unspoken words. It's remarkable how a slight furrow of the brow can signal confusion, or the softening of eyes can display empathy. The key is to tune in, really observe, and let yourself empathize with the person before you. Enriches this skill further. These fleeting facial expressions, lasting only a fraction of a second, reveal true emotions that people might be trying to conceal. I recall a time when I was interviewing a candidate for a job. Her resume was impressive, but something didn't quite align with her answers. Then there it was, a quick flash of fear in her eyes when she mentioned a previous job. It was brief but undeniable. I decided to probe a little and learned that she had left that position under stressful circumstances. By understanding her micro-expression, I was able to get a fuller picture and support her better. These tiny, almost imperceptible expressions can be the key to unlocking deeper truths in our interactions. Being able to recognize and interpret facial expressions enhances empathy, making our conversations more authentic and meaningful. Whether comforting a friend in distress or negotiating a business deal, being attuned to these nonverbal cues can make a significant difference. Next time you engage with someone, pay close attention to their facial expressions and micro-expressions. Notice how their expressions shift and what those shifts might mean. This practice not only helps in understanding others better, but also fosters a more compassionate and connected approach to communication. Interpreting verbal cues. One of the most intricate elements of human communication is the tone of voice. The same words can convey vastly different messages depending on how they're spoken. A compassionate tone can soothe and connect, while a harsh one can alienate. Knowing how to analyze tone involves more than just hearing words. It's about listening to the emotional undertone. For example, a simple "I'm fine" can have layers of meaning depending on the inflection and context. When someone speaks with a rising tone at the end of a sentence, it could indicate uncertainty or a question, while a steady, even tone usually implies confidence or neutrality. Speech patterns also play a crucial role. The speed at which someone talks can reveal their emotional state. Rapid speech often suggests excitement or nervousness, while slower speech may indicate thoughtfulness or sadness. Repetition of phrases can signal emphasis and importance, helping to identify key points in a conversation. Knowing these nuances allows us to better understand and respond to the people we interact with, making communication more effective. Pauses and emphasis in communication carry significant weight as well. A well-timed pause can be powerful, giving the listener a moment to digest what has been said and allowing the speaker to underscore the importance of their message. Emphasis, achieved through changing pitch or volume, makes certain words stand out and can dramatically alter the meaning of a sentence. For example, consider the phrase, "I didn't say she stole the money." Emphasizing different words changes the implied meaning entirely, from denying the act of saying to questioning who stole the money. Understanding these subtleties can prevent misunderstandings and deepen interpersonal connections. A useful tip for better interpreting verbal cues is to pair these observations with nonverbal signals. Watching for body language, facial expressions, and eye contact can provide additional context to what is being communicated verbally. This holistic approach ensures a more complete understanding of the message being conveyed. Chapter 2: Empathy and Connection. Developing empathetic skills. Empathy is like the bridge between two islands, connecting us to others in a meaningful way. It's remarkable how understanding and sharing someone else's feelings can transform a relationship, whether personal or professional. Think about a moment when someone truly understood what you were going through. That feeling of being seen and heard creates a profound bond, doesn't it? This is the foundation of empathy. It isn't just about feeling sorry for someone, it's about seeing the world through someone else's eyes. This connection allows relationships to thrive because it shows we care and acknowledge the other person's reality. Empathy helps us build trust, reduce misunderstandings, and foster a supportive environment. Just imagine a world where everyone strives to understand and support each other. Wouldn't that lead to stronger connections and a more compassionate society? Practicing empathy can start with something as simple as active listening. Often in our conversations, we're so focused on what we're going to say next that we miss the essence of what the other person is expressing. I remember a time when a friend was sharing a difficult experience, and I caught myself mentally drafting my response. I stopped, refocused, and truly listened. Not only did it change the outcome of the conversation, but it also deepened our friendship. Active listening involves being fully present in the moment, maintaining eye contact, and giving the other person your undivided attention. Another key aspect is validation. When someone shares their feelings, responding with statements like, "I understand why you feel that way," or "poorer. It sounds like you're really going through a tough time," can make a huge difference. It signals that their emotions are legitimate and important. This practice doesn't just benefit the person you're listening to, it enriches your ability to connect and grow as a compassionate human being. One invaluable tip to develop empathetic skills is to constantly remind yourself of the perspective of the other person. Picture yourself in their situation. How might you feel? What kind of support would you seek? It's a simple exercise, but incredibly powerful in nurturing empathy. Start incorporating this into your daily interactions. Watch how it changes not just your relationships, but brings a sense of fulfillment as well. Remember, empathy is not about fixing others' problems. It's about being present and showing genuine understanding. The more we practice this, the more natural it becomes, making our world a kinder, more connected place. Building genuine connections can sometimes be challenging, but it's the foundation of any meaningful relationship. When I meet someone new, I remind myself to be fully present. This means setting aside distractions and really listening to what the other person is saying. Eye contact, nodding, and responding thoughtfully all convey that I am genuinely interested. I remember one time I met a new colleague, and instead of focusing on our work tasks, I asked about their hobbies and interests. This simple act of showing interest in their life warmed them up significantly, and since then, we've had a supportive professional relationship. Involves more than just listening. It requires empathy and compassion. When someone shares their struggles with me, I make an effort to validate their feelings. For me, it's important to acknowledge what they're going through by saying something like, "That sounds really tough," or "I can see why you'd feel that way." There was a situation where a friend was dealing with a difficult time at home, and she didn't need solutions. She just needed someone to listen and understand. Offering comfort through words and sometimes simply being there without judgment can create a safe space for genuine connection. One practical tip that has worked wonders for me is to share a little about myself when appropriate. This opens up a two-way street of communication. By being vulnerable, I show that trust goes both ways. Once, sharing a personal story about a challenge I had overcome helped a coworker feel more at ease about discussing their own ongoing struggles. It's amazing how a bit of empathy and openness can foster deeper connections. Creating a safe space for others. One of the most important things I've learned is that creating a safe space for others begins with fostering an environment of openness and trust. While this might sound straightforward, it requires a consistent and conscious effort. It's about being available, genuinely listening, and validating others' feelings. When someone shares something with me, I make it a point to listen actively without interrupting. This means making eye contact, nodding to show understanding, and asking open-ended questions to encourage them to elaborate. By doing this, I'm not only showing that I care, but also that I'm genuinely interested in their well-being. It's remarkable how much people open up when they feel they're in a non-judgmental, supportive environment. Is another vital component. From my experience, people often don't feel safe to express their true feelings, especially in environments where they fear being judged or misunderstood. Creating a safe space means encouraging others to communicate their feelings openly and honestly. It's about validating their emotions and providing the assurance that it's okay to feel what they're feeling. Sometimes this means sharing my own experiences and vulnerabilities to create a bridge of understanding. I've found that when I share a personal story, it often encourages others to open up about their own experiences, leading to deeper, more meaningful conversations. For instance, I once worked with a team member who seemed disengaged and withdrawn. Instead of ignoring the situation, I approached them with empathy, opened up about my own past struggles, and created a space where they felt safe to share what was on their mind. It turned out that they were dealing with personal issues that they didn't feel comfortable discussing with anyone. By fostering an environment of trust and encouraging open communication, I was able to support them in navigating their challenges, which ultimately led to a more cohesive and supportive team dynamic. Remember, creating a safe space is less about grand gestures and more about consistent, compassionate practices that show people they matter. Chapter 3: The Power of Observation. Sharpening your awareness is akin to tuning into a new frequency on a radio. Suddenly, nuances and details that were once hidden become vividly clear. It's a skill that can be honed through intentional practice and a shift in mindset. I remember a time when I considered myself a generally observant person, but it wasn't until I actively started focusing on my surroundings that I realized how much I was missing. Instead of walking with my head buried in my phone, I began to take in the intricate patterns in the pavement, the subtle changes in the sky as the day transitions, and even the variations in people's footsteps. Observation is not just about looking, it's about seeing, truly seeing what is there and interpreting it on a deeper level. By consciously slowing down and taking in our environment, we can train our minds to notice the minute details that often go unnoticed. Heightening awareness of our surroundings and nonverbal cues can significantly enhance our interactions and overall experience of life. Start by becoming more attuned to the ambient sounds in your environment. The rustling of leaves, the distant hum of traffic, or the soft murmur of a conversation can all provide context to the world around us. During a conversation, pay attention not just to the words being spoken, but to the speaker's body language, their gestures, facial expressions, and posture. Nonverbal cues often convey more than verbal communication alone. I once attended a meeting where a colleague seemed adamant about an issue, but his crossed arms and downward gaze suggested hesitation. By addressing his underlying concerns directly, I was able to foster a more open and effective dialogue. Such moments underscore the power of refined awareness in improving our personal and professional relationships. Being fully aware is not about being hypervigilant or anxious. It's about being fully present and engaged with the world around us. Spend a few minutes each day consciously practicing mindfulness, whether through meditation, a nature walk, or simply pausing to breathe deeply and take in your surroundings. This practice can ground us in the present moment and enhance our perception. For example, I found that by dedicating just a few minutes each morning to mindful breathing, my ability to remain perceptive and calm throughout the day improved significantly. It's these small, consistent practices that cultivate a sharper awareness, leading to a more enriched and connected life experience. Noting behavioral patterns. One of the most profound realizations I've had is the impact of recognizing consistent behaviors in those around us. Think about the people you encounter daily: family, friends, coworkers. They each have unique traits, habits, ways of responding, and reactions to stimuli. These repetitive actions, these patterns, become a blueprint of their personalities. It's fascinating to notice how someone who is always punctual exhibits an underlying value of respect for time, or how an individual who consistently empathizes during conflicts likely has a deeply rooted sense of compassion. I remember observing a colleague who always brought joy to our team meetings with their creative ideas. Over time, I understood this wasn't just luck or a one-off occurrence. It was a pattern of innovation and courage. Recognizing these patterns allowed me to appreciate their role in our team's dynamics fully. It's about tuning into these consistent behaviors without judgment and with an openness to understanding the core of who these people are. This recognition of behavioral patterns doesn't just enhance our interpersonal relationships, it gives us a remarkable tool for deeper empathy and connection. By understanding these patterns, we can better predict how someone might react in certain situations, helping us navigate relationships more effectively. For example, knowing a friend's inclination towards introversion can save them from the discomfort of an overwhelming social event. On the flip side, recognizing a partner's consistent annoyance with tardiness can foster better mutual respect. When we apply this understanding, it enables us to be more compassionate. It's about seeing beyond the surface actions to the motivations and emotional states driving them. Such insights can lead to solving conflicts before they escalate, supporting others in their strengths, and gently guiding them through their weaknesses. So, in essence, noting behavioral patterns and understanding their implications is a journey towards becoming more thoughtful, empathetic, and ultimately connected human beings. One practical way to harness this understanding is to start with mindfulness. Pay mindful attention to the behaviors of those around you without the rush to label or judge. Just observe and reflect. The more you practice, the more intuitive it becomes, turning everyday interactions into opportunities for deeper connections. Reading between the lines. In everyday conversations, understanding what's left unsaid often requires delving beneath the surface of words. Perhaps you've noticed someone's tone change subtly when discussing certain subjects or watched their eyes dim at the mention of a particular name. These are the hidden layers, the nuances that are seldom communicated directly but speak volumes about a person's feelings and intentions. For example, a seemingly casual remark like, "I'm fine," can carry a world of unspoken distress if followed by a deep sigh or averted gaze. Recognizing these signs starts with paying close attention to context and nonverbal cues. When we attune ourselves to the slight tremor in a friend's voice or the reluctance in their body language, we begin to see past the facade to the true emotions beneath. This process isn't about becoming a mind reader, but rather about honing our sensitivity to the subtleties that often go unnoticed. The key to identifying these hidden meanings is empathy. Putting ourselves in the other person's shoes allows us to feel what they might be feeling. This isn't just about interpreting words, but understanding the full spectrum of their nonverbal communication, their tone, posture, and facial expressions. When a colleague says they've got everything under control, but their hands fidget restlessly, it's a cue that they might be overwhelmed. Our own emotional awareness improves with practice and intentional observation. We become like detectives, piecing together clues from tone, choice of words, and physical gestures. Over time, this heightened awareness can lead to deeper connections and more genuine interactions, as people feel truly seen and understood. Context is everything when it comes to deciphering messages that aren't explicitly stated. Take, for example, a team meeting where one member contributes significantly less than usual. Without context, one might assume they're simply not engaged, but a deeper look might reveal they've been dealing with personal challenges or feeling overshadowed by the dominant voices in the room. Drawing accurate conclusions from such scenarios requires considering the broader picture. This might involve recalling previous interactions, understanding the individual's typical behavior patterns, and recognizing any recent changes in their life circumstances that could impact their demeanor. By mentally cataloging this information, we can form more accurate interpretations. Another aspect of context is understanding cultural and situational norms. A friendly pat on the back might be reassuring in one culture and inappropriate in another. Similarly, someone might downplay their achievements in a professional setting to avoid seeming boastful, while the same behavior in a personal context can indicate a lack of confidence. Being mindful of these situational dynamics allows us to parse out more meaningful insights. It's also crucial to remain open to revising our interpretations as new information becomes available. When we engage with others, we must be ready to adapt our understanding based on evolving contexts and continuing dialogue. This adaptability ensures we remain empathetic and fair in our assessments, paving the way for effective and compassionate communication. Chapter 4: Cultivating Intuition. Trusting your gut instincts. Intuition is a fascinating aspect of human cognition. It's that inexplicable sense of knowing something without having any concrete evidence or logical reasoning to back it up. When it comes to understanding the role of intuition in mind reading, it often feels like stepping into an ancient wisdom that's deeply embedded within us. Intuition can be an unspoken language our subconscious communicates through. It's a blend of our past experiences, emotions, and innate human perception, skillfully weaving into what we call gut feelings. These gut feelings can sometimes reveal insights about others' thoughts and emotions that go beyond spoken words. By honing this intuitive sense, we can often understand and connect with people on a deeper level. It is, however, a journey that requires practice and self-awareness. Many times, we might dismiss our intuition as irrational or unfounded. Yet, there are moments when we look back and realize that our gut was right all along. It's essential to learn how to distinguish between genuine, intuitive guidance and mere wishful thinking or fear-driven perceptions. This skill begins with small steps, paying attention to those subtle nudges and the feelings they evoke in situations involving decision-making or understanding others. For instance, you might feel a sense of unease when meeting someone new, only to later realize that your instinctual caution was based on subtle cues your conscious mind missed. A useful tip for developing trust in your gut instincts is to keep an intuition journal. Document your initial feelings about decisions or people, and then compare them with outcomes over time. This practice not only helps you recognize patterns, but also sharpens your intuitive abilities. With a bit of compassion and patience, you'll find your inner voice growing stronger and more reliable. Tapping into subconscious signals. I've always been fascinated by the hidden layers of our consciousness. It reminds me of moments when I would suddenly think of an old friend, only to receive a call from them shortly after. These aren't merely coincidences, they're subtle cues from our subconscious mind. If we pay attention, those quiet messages can guide us in profound ways. During a walk in the park, I once felt an inexplicable but strong urge to change my usual route. Moments later, I stumbled upon an art exhibit that deeply resonated with me. These nudges aren't just random, they're the subconscious trying to communicate. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the atmosphere, even before anyone spoke? These nonverbal signals are our subconscious at work, reading the environment faster than our conscious mind. I recall sitting in a meeting where, despite everyone smiling, I sensed underlying tension, trusting that intuition later helped me navigate a challenging project. It's not only about reading others, it's also about understanding our bodily reactions. When faced with a decision, our gut feeling often speaks louder than any rational argument. Paying close attention to these signals can profoundly impact our decisions and interactions. One of the most enlightening techniques I've found is to start keeping a journal. Writing down instances where you felt a hunch or a gut feeling, and then noting the outcomes can sharpen your intuitive abilities. It helps to create a map of how your subconscious communicates with you. Engage in mindfulness practices, such as meditation, or simply taking a few moments of stillness each day to tune into these subtle signals. Over time, you'll find that your subconscious mind is not silent. It's a wise companion, ready to offer guidance when you need it most. Enhancing intuitive abilities. When I first embarked on the journey to enhance my intuitive abilities, mindfulness felt like a revelation. This practice opened doors to an inner world I hardly knew existed. By focusing on the present moment and letting go of distracting thoughts, I started to access deeper layers of consciousness. It's amazing how our intuition, often clouded by stress and noise, begins to surface when we quiet our minds. Imagine standing by a still lake on a calm morning. That serene reflection is what mindfulness offers our busy minds. Each quiet moment becomes a chance to hear the whispers of intuitive insights. My initial attempts at mindfulness were simple. I began by setting aside just 5 minutes a day to sit quietly and notice my breath. At first, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and worries, but gradually I felt a shift. As I paid attention to my breathing, I started to notice subtle feelings and intuitive nudges that had always been there, but were drowned out by mental clutter. One exercise that made a significant impact was mindful walking. By turning an everyday activity into a focused practice, I found that my mind cleared and I became more receptive to intuitive signals. The rhythm of my steps and the sensations underfoot grounded me in the present moment, enhancing my inner awareness. Developing intuitive skills is much like honing any other ability. It takes practice and patience. One evening, guided by a sense of curiosity, I tried a simple exercise, intuitive visualization. Closing my eyes, I pictured a problem I was facing. I allowed my mind to wander and create images freely. Surprisingly, solutions began to emerge not as logical steps, but as vivid symbols and feelings. This exercise taught me to trust the seemingly illogical aspects of my mind, uncovering intuitive insights that had a profound sense of rightness. Another technique that proved invaluable was journaling my intuitive experiences. After moments of mindfulness or visualization, I would jot down any fleeting thoughts, feelings, or images. Reflecting on these entries, patterns often emerged, revealing deeper intuitive guidance. There was a time when I faced a major career decision. By repeatedly writing down my gut feelings and dreams, I recognized a recurring theme urging me in a particular direction, which eventually turned out to be the right choice. Incorporating these exercises into daily life doesn't require grand rituals or significant time investments. It's about creating small, meaningful moments to connect with your inner self. Whether you're sipping your morning tea, walking to work, or unwinding before bed, seize these opportunities to pause and listen. Each mindful breath, each instinct followed, strengthens your intuitive muscles, leading to a life guided by deeper wisdom. Chapter 5. Communicating with Empathy. Active listening skills. When we engage in conversation, giving our full attention is one of the simplest yet most powerful things we can do. I remember a time when a friend shared something deeply personal with me. In that moment, I chose to focus entirely on what they were saying, setting aside my phone, my thoughts, and my distractions. This not only allowed me to truly understand their feelings, but also showed my friend that I genuinely cared. Listening attentively requires us to be present both mentally and emotionally. Eye contact, nodding, and minimal verbal cues like I see or go on signal to the speaker that we are entirely engaged. My friend later mentioned how supported and valued they felt, which reinforced for me the importance of this practice. Active listening goes beyond just hearing words. It involves reflecting and clarifying to ensure we truly grasp what the other person is sharing. One valuable technique is paraphrasing, where we restate the speaker's words in our own language. For instance, during that same conversation with my friend, I would often say, "So what you're saying is," followed by my interpretation of their points. This not only confirmed my understanding, but also gave my friend a chance to clarify or elaborate further. Another effective approach is to ask open-ended questions that invite more detailed responses. Questions like, "How did that make you feel?" Or "Can you tell me more about that?" show that we are engaged and care about comprehending the full picture. Through these techniques, not only do we build stronger connections, but we also help the speaker feel heard and understood. A useful tip to enhance your active listening skills is to make it a habit to summarize key points of the conversation. For instance, at the end of a discussion, you might say, "To make sure I've got this right, you mentioned," followed by the main points. This confirms understanding for both parties and helps solidify the important aspects of the conversation in our memory. Expressing compassion. When it comes to showing compassion, the first step is often demonstrating understanding and empathy in both our words and actions. We can't just say we understand, we have to actively show it. I remember one time when a close friend was going through a really tough breakup. Instead of just offering generic condolences like "Fail both," "You'll be okay," or a rose. "There are plenty of fish in the sea," I chose to share in her emotional experience. I listened intently as she poured out her feelings, occasionally offering a gentle "For that must really hurt," or "I can see why you feel that way." Sometimes she didn't need words at all. Just my presence was enough to let her know I cared. Actions can speak volumes. Offering to help with small tasks or just being there to sit in silence can communicate a deep level of empathy that words alone may fail to express. Is another powerful tool in building connections and providing comfort. It's about choosing words that convey warmth, understanding, and encouragement. Reflecting on my own experiences, I've found that even simple phrases can make a big difference. Telling someone, "I believe in you," or "You're not alone in this," can instill a sense of strength and companionship. During a particularly challenging project at work, I noticed a colleague was overwhelmed and close to giving up. Instead of merely acknowledging her stress, I turned to her and said, "You've got this. I've seen you handle tough situations before, and I'm confident you can do it again. How can I support you?" These words weren't just comforting. They were a reminder of her capabilities and the support available to her. Offering compassionate support isn't about solving others' problems, but about being a pillar on which they can lean. Just like the times I've been on the receiving end of genuine compassion, I strive to create that same safe space for others through both what I say and what I do. So next time you find yourself in a situation where someone needs your compassion, remember that it's not only about what you say. It's equally about how you show up, listen, and make someone feel understood and valued. Effective nonverbal communication. There's something profoundly human about body language. From a reassuring nod to maintaining eye contact, nonverbal cues play a critical role in how we connect with others. I remember a time when a friend of mine was going through a tough period. Instead of bombarding her with questions or offering unsolicited advice, I simply listened, nodding occasionally and mirroring her posture. This made her feel seen and understood, without the need for many words. Our body language can be a powerful tool to demonstrate empathy. A gentle touch on the arm or leaning slightly forward can signal that we are fully present and engaged in the conversation. Equally important is the practice of open body posture, avoiding crossed arms or looking away, which can unintentionally convey disinterest or disapproval. By focusing on these subtle yet impactful gestures, we can foster deeper connections and create an environment where others feel comfortable and valued. A slight change in how we use our bodies can transform our interactions, making them more meaningful and compassionate. Nonverbal communication extends beyond personal interactions to shaping our environments. Creating a positive and inclusive atmosphere can be as simple as paying attention to our surroundings and how we physically present ourselves. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt out of place or unwelcome? Often, it's the nonverbal cues that contribute to that feeling: closed off body language, lack of eye contact, or even the arrangement of the space. Imagine hosting a gathering where you ensure the seating is arranged in a circle rather than in rows. This small change can promote a sense of equality and inclusion, encouraging open dialogue. Similarly, maintaining eye contact with everyone in the room and using inviting gestures can make participants feel acknowledged and appreciated. During meetings, I make it a point to nod and smile to show my agreement and support. These actions, though subtle, can make a significant difference in how safe and included people feel. The power of nonverbal communication lies in its ability to transcend words. By consciously using these cues, we can create environments where everyone feels valued and respected, fostering a sense of community and belonging. Next time you're in a group setting, try to be mindful of your body language and observe the positive ripple effects it has on those around you. Chapter 6: Mind Reading in Relationships. Understanding emotional needs is often easier said than done. I've found myself in situations where my partner's silence spoke volumes, but I was utterly clueless about what was missing. It's in these moments of confusion that we learn the importance of being attuned to not just our own emotions, but also those of the people we care about. Emotions are the unseen currents that drive our interactions, and understanding them can create more harmony and depth in our relationships. The real challenge often lies in recognizing these emotional needs before they bubble over into conflict. When I started to actively listen and observe, I discovered subtle cues I had previously overlooked. Maybe a sigh here, a downward glance there. One evening, my partner sat next to me during dinner but seemed distant. Instead of ignoring it, I asked softly, "What's on your mind?" That simple question opened a floodgate of emotions they had been holding back. Asking, listening, and acknowledging can make a monumental difference. It's something that we all know theoretically, but putting it into practice is what really makes the difference. Everyone craves to be understood and heard, and the act of truly listening from the heart is an art. Think about a time when you felt utterly dismissed. The sting of that moment lingers, doesn't it? Now think about a time when someone really listened to you, made you feel seen and heard. Felt good, right? We can offer that to others too. It's about more than just nodding in agreement. It's about capturing the essence of what they are trying to convey and responding with genuine empathy. Once a friend poured out her struggles, and instead of jumping to solutions, I simply said, "That sounds really tough. I can't imagine how hard it must be for you." Her eyes welled up with tears, not from sadness, but from relief. She felt validated, heard, and supported in that moment. Empathy and validation are powerful tools. They don't solve problems, but create a safe space for emotions to be expressed freely. Sometimes that's all someone needs. Next time you're sitting with a friend or partner, put away distractions and give them your full attention. Validate their feelings without judging. It might feel like a small act, but it has the power to deepen your connection and understanding more than you might realize. Magic happens when people feel emotionally safe with each other. Trust me, the effort is worth it. Navigating conflicts with empathy. Conflict is an inevitable part of life, but how we approach it can make all the difference. From personal experience, I've found that leading with empathy helps diffuse tension and opens the door to meaningful dialogue. Imagine a heated disagreement with a close friend over a significant issue. Instead of rushing to defend your stance, take a step back and genuinely try to understand their perspective. What if their upbringing or past experiences shape their strong feelings about this particular subject? By putting yourself in their shoes, you not only validate their emotions, but also create a bridge for mutual understanding. I recall a time when a coworker and I clashed over a project direction. The atmosphere was charged, and it seemed like neither of us would budge. It wasn't until I took a moment to breathe and asked about his concerns and aspirations for the project that the conversation shifted. His underlying worries about job security and personal achievements came to light, giving me a clearer picture of the conflict's root cause. This simple act of empathetic listening transformed a potentially divisive situation into a collaborative effort for a common goal. The key lies in fostering a genuine interest in the other person's feelings and thoughts, setting the stage for a respectful and compassionate interaction. Once we've approached the conflict with empathy, the next step is working towards a resolution in a way that honors everyone's emotional well-being. It's not just about finding a quick fix. It's about ensuring that all parties feel heard, respected, and valued throughout the process. During disputes, heightened emotions often cloud judgment and create barriers to resolution. A technique that consistently proves beneficial is to take pauses. These pauses give everyone involved the space to process their emotions, reflect on the discussion, and respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. In a personal instance, my partner and I had a recurring disagreement about household responsibilities. Each discussion would escalate quickly, leaving us both feeling frustrated and unappreciated. Recognizing the pattern, we decided to implement pause moments whenever we felt overwhelmed. These small breaks allowed us to gather our thoughts and approach the discussion with clearer minds and calmer demeanors. We eventually found a balanced arrangement that worked for both of us, emphasizing shared responsibility and mutual respect. The focus on emotional well-being ensured that our relationship remained strong, and the conflict, once a source of stress, became an opportunity for deeper connection and understanding. Empathy and emotional consideration aren't just tools for conflict resolution. They are essential practices that enrich our relationships and foster a more compassionate world. In moments of discord, remember that the goal isn't to win the argument, but to nurture mutual respect and understanding. A practical tip to keep in mind: whenever you feel a conflict arising, remind yourself to listen actively, speak kindly, and prioritize the emotional well-being of everyone involved. This approach transforms conflicts from battles into opportunities for growth and deeper connection. Building trust and understanding trust is the cornerstone of any meaningful relationship, both personal and professional. In my own life, I've found that the simplest, yet most powerful way to cultivate trust is through effective communication, blended with genuine empathy. Take, for instance, the time I was working on a collaborative project with colleagues from cultures vastly different from my own. Instead of charging forward with my own ideas, I made a conscious effort to listen actively and genuinely understand their perspectives. It wasn't just about nodding in agreement, it was about tuning in to their unspoken concerns and questions, much like picking up an invisible thread in a complex tapestry. This act of mindful listening opened doors to deeper connections and trust. In romantic relationships, this dynamic becomes even more crucial. Imagine a partner coming home from a tough day at work, brimming with frustrations. Instead of offering solutions immediately, I learned the importance of just being present. I hear you, I'd say, offering empathy and space for them to vent. That simple act of understanding, of making someone feel seen and heard, can be immensely powerful in building trust. It's a dance of words and emotions, where each step is taken with care and each movement resonates deeply within the other person. The idea of mind reading in relationships isn't about mystical telepathy, but rather about a nuanced understanding and anticipation of the other person's needs and feelings. This form of mind reading begins with observation and experience. For instance, I noticed that my friend would withdraw slightly when feeling overwhelmed. By learning these subtle cues, I was able to step in with support exactly when it was needed. The goal isn't to predict every thought, but to create an atmosphere of profound understanding where one can anticipate emotions and reactions based on past interactions and trust built. One memorable moment involves my partner who, after several long days, was visibly exhausted but hesitant to talk about it. Without them saying a word, I recognized the drooping shoulders and the heavy sighs. I prepared their favorite meal, dimmed the lights, and set a calming atmosphere at home. This wasn't about being a psychic, but about reading the cues of someone I cared deeply about and taking steps to address their unspoken needs. This kind of deepening understanding often feels like magic, but it's really about consistency and attentiveness over time. When it comes to professional relationships, mind reading translates to anticipating the needs of colleagues or clients. I recall a time when a client was unusually silent during a project meeting. Sensing discomfort, I gently probed and offered to adjust the project timeline. This preemptive step, guided by an understanding built over previous interactions, not only eased their concerns, but solidified a trusting business relationship. Chapter 7: Ethical Considerations. Respecting Privacy and Boundaries. Respecting personal boundaries in mind reading is fundamental to maintaining healthy relationships. There have been times when I wished I could know what others were thinking, perhaps to ease my own anxieties or to better understand someone's actions. However, I have learned that curiosity, no matter how well-intentioned, should never compromise someone's personal space. Each individual has a right to their own private thoughts and experiences. Reflecting on this, I recall a particular situation when a close friend was going through a tough time and remained silent about it. Battling the urge to pry for details and respecting their boundary eventually strengthened our bond. It became clear that respecting boundaries also means offering emotional support without overstepping. Confidentiality and privacy are paramount when it comes to interactions with others. Establishing trust hinges on this respect. I remember working on a project where sensitive personal information was shared within our group. We adopted stringent measures to maintain each person's privacy using locked files and encrypted communication. Ensuring that everyone felt secure discussing personal matters without the fear of leaks created a supportive and open environment. This led us to achieve more significant insights and a more cohesive team dynamic. Protecting privacy is not just about maintaining secrecy. It's about fostering a space where people feel valued and safe. Using mind reading for positive impact. In an interconnected world where empathy often feels like a rare commodity, harnessing mind reading skills to help others and promote well-being can be a transformative practice. We're not talking about literal mind reading here. Rather, it's about developing a heightened sense of empathy and intuition. By deeply understanding the thoughts and feelings of those around us, we can respond with kindness and support that truly meets their needs. Imagine being able to sense when a friend is silently struggling. Your timely words of comfort could be a lifeline. The power to connect on this profound level not only aids others, but also enriches our own lives, fostering relationships that are both meaningful and resilient. Requires a delicate balance of patience, observation, and active listening. When we tap into our empathetic abilities, we are more equipped to offer genuine support. Recognizing subtle cues in body language or shifts in tone can reveal volumes about a person's mental and emotional state. With this awareness, we can encourage a workmate who seems overwhelmed or offer unspoken solace to a family member navigating a tough time. By consciously practicing these skills, we create an environment where understanding and compassion flourish, laying the groundwork for positive lives. Always remember, the key to utilizing mind reading for positive impact lies in your intention. Genuine care for others should be at the heart of this practice, transforming our interactions into acts of kindness rather than invasive scrutiny. Whether you're comforting a friend, supporting a colleague, or simply listening more intently, your efforts to understand from within will ripple outward, fostering a world where empathy and positive change are the norm. Try pausing to really listen next time someone speaks to you. That simple act may open doors to deeper connections and lasting positive impacts. Avoiding manipulative practices has been a significant journey for me. In my experiences, and perhaps in yours too, it's tempting to assume we understand another person's thoughts or intentions completely. We might think that by doing so, we can guide them to a better place. However, this often leads us down a path where we are no longer helping but controlling. Imagining that we know someone's thoughts without them explicitly sharing can mislead us into taking actions based on false assumptions. As a result, we can unintentionally manipulate them toward our own goals. Recognizing this, I committed myself to always seeking clarity through open conversations rather than making assumptions. Requires a profound respect for the autonomy and freedom of others. This means treating every person as an equal partner in the dialogue. There have been times when I caught myself almost crossing that line, like the time I guessed a friend's decision about their relationship before they were ready to talk about it. That experience taught me the importance of patience and the necessity of creating a safe environment for people to share their thoughts willingly. By valuing transparency and seeking consent before delving into sensitive discussions, we foster trust and mutual respect. Practicing this consistently reinforces the ethical standards in our interactions and ensures that we inspire growth, not impose it. Remember, it's crucial to keep improving our understanding and utilize mind-reading practices with the utmost responsibility. Reflecting on these principles daily helps me stay grounded and compassionate. Understanding that each individual has their own pace and preferred ways of communicating can prevent us from unintentionally slipping into manipulative behaviors. A practical tip I always follow is to ask open-ended questions that allow others to express themselves freely and authentically. This not only builds trust, but also ensures that the interaction remains open and ethical. Chapter 8: Overcoming Misconceptions. Dispelling myths about mind reading. We've all seen it in the movies, a mysterious figure who seems to know exactly what another person is thinking, peering into their deepest thoughts and desires. This portrayal has fueled countless misconceptions and stereotypes about what mind reading actually entails. As someone deeply immersed in understanding human cognition, I can tell you that mind reading, as depicted in pop culture, couldn't be further from the truth. The first common misconception is that mind reading is an infallible and effortless skill. The reality is, understanding another person's thoughts requires an immense amount of empathy and keen observational skills, not some supernatural ability. We don't read minds in the literal sense. Instead, we interpret body language, facial expressions, and vocal tones to make educated guesses about someone's thoughts and feelings. This process can be prone to errors, especially if one relies on assumptions without considering context. Another stereotype is the belief that mind readers can expose your deepest secrets just by looking at you. This dramatic flair makes for great storytelling, but it's incredibly unrealistic. True mind-reading professionals, like therapists or negotiators, aim to create safe spaces where thoughts can be shared voluntarily. Trust and communication are foundational. No one's inner world can be accessed on a whim. Now, let's talk about misunderstanding the abilities involved in mind reading. There's a significant difference between gut feelings and actual mind reading skills. Many people claim to have a sixth sense about what others think, but this is often just intuition based on past experiences, rather than a reliable method to understand someone's mind. Authentic mind reading requires structured learning and continuous practice, including studying psychology and communication techniques. Another misunderstanding is that mind readers are always right. This belief ignores the fact that human behavior is incredibly complex and situational. Even the most experienced professionals can misinterpret signals due to the influence of biases or limited information. Recognizing these limitations allows us to remain humble and continuously refine our approach to better understand others. If you're seeking to improve your own ability to understand others, start by focusing on active listening. Give people your full attention and validate their feelings without interrupting. Over time, you'll develop a more nuanced understanding of human thoughts and emotions, allowing for deeper connections and more empathetic interactions. Addressing stereotypes and stigma. Stereotypes associated with mind reading often depict it as a mystical or unnatural ability, something relegated to the realm of fantasy and fiction. Growing up, I noticed how media representations could paint those who claimed to have such abilities as either superhumans or frauds, creating a chasm between the reality of the skill and public perception. These stereotypes can be deeply rooted and impact the way individuals who practice mind reading are viewed by society. It's essential to break these down by fostering informed conversations and sharing genuine experiences. When I first encountered someone capable of mind reading, it felt like an encounter with the extraordinary. However, as I learned more, I began to appreciate it as a skill based on keen observation, empathy, and connection rather than some supernatural gift. It's important to understand that mind reading, in a more grounded sense, relates to psychological insight and heightened emotional intelligence. Dissecting these stereotypes involves demystifying the process and recognizing the effort and practice involved. For instance, consider a musician who plays an instrument with such fluidity that it seems almost otherworldly. This level of skill is achieved through years of dedication, much like mind reading. With clear, relatable analogies and shared experiences, we can start to dissolve the mystical aura and appreciate mind reading as a disciplined, valuable skill. Promoting understanding and acceptance of mind reading begins with education and open dialogue. The more we discuss the nuances of this ability, the easier it becomes for people to shift their perspectives. I recall a workshop I attended where the facilitator walked us through exercises designed to enhance our empathy and intuition. By engaging in activities that mirrored the techniques used in mind reading, participants could see how these skills are accessible and useful, rather than strange or intimidating. This hands-on approach demystified the process and built a sense of practicality around it. Another powerful approach to fostering acceptance is sharing stories and testimonies from those who've benefited from the skill. Mind reading facilitates deeper connections and improves communication in various settings, from personal relationships to professional environments. By emphasizing its real-world applications, we can help others see mind reading as an asset rather than an oddity. Imagine couples resolving conflicts with greater ease because they better understand each other's unspoken feelings, or leaders in the workplace, tapping into their team's emotional undercurrents to foster a more cohesive and productive environment. These examples illustrate the profound impact of mind reading when embraced as a valuable skill. Practically speaking, beginning with simple exercises in observation and empathy can be a great start towards enhancing this ability in everyday interactions. Embracing the positive aspects of mind reading. Imagine, for a moment, what life would be like if you could truly understand what others are thinking. The potential benefits of mind reading are both profound and transformative. On a personal level, it allows us to foster deeper connections with loved ones. Misunderstandings, which often sprout from miscommunication, could be virtually eradicated. We could sense the unspoken needs and worries of those around us, offering support exactly when it's needed and knowing just what to say to bring comfort or joy. On a broader scale, consider the applications of mind reading in professional settings. Leaders and managers could better understand the motivations, anxieties, and aspirations of their teams, resulting in more empathetic and effective leadership. Imagine a world where customer service representatives genuinely comprehend the frustrations and desires of clients, enhancing service experiences and satisfaction levels. In therapeutic contexts, psychologists and counselors could dive deeper into their patients' thoughts, offering more precise and tailored interventions. Students struggling with the internal battle of comprehension and confidence would benefit from educators who can instinctively grasp their needs, providing targeted assistance to help them thrive. Now let's celebrate the affirmative aspects of mind reading. Embracing such a capability could fundamentally shift our societal dynamics. The empathetic understanding bred from mind reading can create a more compassionate world. Conflicts, whether personal or geopolitical, are often rooted in a failure to understand the other's perspective. With mind reading, we could lift the veil of misunderstanding that leads to discord and create a space where mutual comprehension fosters peace. In our daily interactions, this could mean the difference between someone feeling isolated in their struggles or supported by a community that truly understands them. The capacity to read minds isn't about infiltrating privacy, but about enhancing our natural ability to empathize and connect. Imagine being able to provide a friend with exactly what they need emotionally before they even have to voice it, or understanding the silent struggles of a colleague and offering the precise form of assistance that can make their day a bit brighter. Practically, adopting a mindset that values listening and seeking to understand others can have a significant impact on our lives. We don't need special abilities to start seeing the world from someone else's perspective. It begins with practices of mindfulness and active empathy. By paying closer attention to nonverbal cues, such as body language and facial expressions, we can begin to tune into the thoughts and feelings of those around us in a more profound way, fostering deeper connections and more harmonious relationships. Chapter 9: Mind Reading in Everyday Life. Applying mind reading in work environments. There was a time when I found myself at a crossroads in my professional journey. Most of my colleagues were brilliant in their fields, yet communication seemed to be where things often went awry. I began to wonder if the answer lay within an often overlooked skill: mind reading. Not the sort of mind reading that pulls thoughts from thin air, rather tuning into subtle cues and signals that everyone offers unconsciously. One of the most transformative moments was when I learned to read the room during meetings. Instead of just listening to the words being spoken, I started paying attention to body language, the tone of voice, and even the underlying emotions. For example, a colleague might say they're fine with a plan, but their crossed arms and averted gaze could signal otherwise. By addressing these unspoken concerns, I could foster a more honest and open dialogue, building trust and improving overall communication. I've observed that people often communicate their stress or frustration through nonverbal cues long before they speak up. By tuning into these signals early, I can offer support or adjust my approach to avoid potential conflicts. Sometimes, simply acknowledging someone's hidden feelings can make them feel understood and valued. Strengthening the workplace bond. When teamwork falters, it's rarely due to a lack of skill. More often, it's because team members fail to truly understand each other's perspectives. By employing mind-reading techniques, I can anticipate colleagues' needs and concerns, which helps in preempting misunderstandings and fostering a more cohesive team dynamic. I recall working on a major project where deadlines were tight and stress levels were high. By paying close attention to my team members' stress indicators, such as shorter responses or frequent sighs, I could take proactive measures to prevent burnout. Sometimes it meant offering a listening ear. Other times it meant redistributing tasks to better align with individuals' strengths and current mental states. These simple acts of empathy not only improved our productivity, but also deepened our mutual respect and understanding. Another approach to enhancing teamwork was through recognizing and valuing different communication styles. Some team members thrive on detailed discussions, while others prefer concise, straight-to-the-point interactions. By adapting my communication to fit these preferences, I could ensure that everyone felt heard and engaged. This adaptability is a cornerstone of effective mind reading in a team setting, aligning everyone's efforts toward a common goal. To anyone reading this, consider this. The next time you're in a work environment, try observing the unspoken dynamics at play. Notice the body language, the tones, and the subtle shifts in mood. This practice not only enriches your understanding, but also equips you with the tools to create a more harmonious and productive workplace. Remember that mind reading, in this context, is about empathy and understanding, not intrusion, paving the way for effective and compassionate communication. Utilizing mind reading in social situations. Your social interactions can truly transform when you tap into the subtle art of mind reading. Imagine walking into a room and sensing the vibes emanating from different corners. You can instantly tell who is feeling anxious, who is secretly excited, or who might need a friend to talk to. It's like having a superpower that enables you to navigate social landscapes with grace. You'll find yourself avoiding awkward scenarios and diving straight into meaningful connections. At a gathering the other day, I noticed a friend fidgeting with their glass, eyes darting around nervously. Reading through their apparent discomfort, I approached with a gentle smile and started a lighthearted conversation. Within moments, their shoulders relaxed and the anxiety melted away. This encounter not only made me more aware of how crucial it is to read social cues, but also deepened our friendship as they felt understood and valued. Mind reading isn't about invading someone's privacy, but rather about enhancing the natural flow of understanding in relationships. By tuning into unspoken words and emotions, you can build stronger, more genuine connections. In relationships, the unvoiced feelings often speak louder than words. Maybe your partner had a tough day at work, but doesn't want to complain. You can sense their need for a comforting embrace or a quiet evening watching their favorite show. One evening, my partner came home, visibly drained. Without them saying a word, I sensed their need for some tranquility. I prepared a warm meal and suggested we sit together in silence. Later, they thanked me for understanding without needing to explain themselves. This deepened our bond, reinforcing the silent support we have for each other. In friendships, being attuned to the underlying emotions can make a massive difference. Last week, a friend was unusually quiet during our gathering. By reading the unease in their body language, I initiated a private, caring conversation that allowed them to open up about their struggles. This not only bolstered our friendship, but also provided them with the assurance that they are not alone. Practical uses in daily interactions. Imagine standing in a crowded coffee shop. The barista is overwhelmed, customers are growing impatient, and everyone's energy is tense. In such moments, mind reading, or rather understanding nonverbal cues, can be incredibly useful. When you see the barista struggling, acknowledging their effort with a warm smile and a soft-spoken thank you can work wonders. It's not about actual telepathy, but about tuning into the subtle signals people give off. This skill can play a significant role in family life too. Let's say you notice your spouse's posture stiffen when discussing finances. Through a compassionate lens, recognizing this as a sign of stress rather than lack of interest can shift the conversation towards empathy. Asking, "How are you feeling about our finances?" instead of assuming a defensive stance can open a world of understanding. In daily interactions, such insights can be a game changer. For instance, at work, if a colleague is unusually quiet during a meeting, rather than jumping to conclusions, a simple follow-up question like, "You seemed quiet today. Is everything all right?" can foster a supportive environment. This approach shows you've noticed and care about their well-being. When running errands or dealing with service providers, patience and empathy can significantly improve interactions. If the cashier appears frazzled, acknowledging their effort and offering a friendly comment like, "It seems really busy today, you're doing a great job," can make their day a little brighter. Such small gestures often create a ripple effect, making your world and theirs a bit kinder. Even within social circles, these insights are invaluable. If a friend makes a cryptic remark at a gathering, instead of brushing it off, showing genuine concern and saying, "You seemed off earlier, do you want to talk about it?" Remember can strengthen your bonds. It's not just about interpreting signals, but responding to them with care and thoughtfulness. A practical tip: start by observing body language more consciously. Notice people's expressions, postures, and tone. It's like learning a new language. The more you practice, the better you get at understanding and responding to the unspoken words. Chapter 10: Emotional Intelligence and Mind Reading. Connecting empathy to emotional intelligence. Empathy and emotional intelligence are often intertwined, like two sides of the same coin. When I first began exploring their relationship, I discovered empathy is not just about feeling someone else's emotions, but understanding them deeply. Emotional intelligence, on the other hand, involves recognizing, understanding, and managing our own emotions and those of others. The more I delved into these concepts, the clearer it became that empathy is a foundational component of emotional intelligence. Imagine a scenario where a colleague is visibly upset after receiving negative feedback. A person with high emotional intelligence, tuned into empathy, would not only notice their distress, but also understand the underlying feelings of disappointment or frustration. By acknowledging these feelings, they can offer genuine support, making the colleague feel understood and valued. Enhancing emotional intelligence often starts with honing our empathetic abilities, and one effective way to do this is through mind reading practices. When I say mind reading, I don't mean some mystical ability. It's about paying close attention to subtle cues, body language, tone of voice, and facial expressions that reveal others' emotions. Picture yourself in a meeting where someone is unusually quiet. By observing their posture and expression, you might infer they're feeling uncomfortable or excluded. Approaching them later and checking in on their well being not only shows empathy, but also helps sharpen your emotional intelligence. Regularly practicing this form of mindful observation can significantly enhance our ability to connect empathetically with others, fostering a more emotionally intelligent approach in our daily interactions. To weave empathy into the fabric of our emotional intelligence, it often helps to reflect on our interactions and consider how we can be more attuned to the emotions around us. Simple acts like active listening, really paying attention without planning our next response, can cultivate a deeper empathetic connection. Additionally, self-awareness plays a critical role. By recognizing our biases and emotional responses, we can better understand and empathize with others' perspectives. Experiment with these practices in your day-to-day life and notice the shift. When we start seeing the world from others' viewpoints, we not only build our emotional intelligence, but also create environments where empathy and understanding thrive. Using mind reading to navigate emotions. I remember the first time I tried to understand the emotions of a close friend without them uttering a single word. It felt like diving into an ocean without knowing how deep it went or where the current would take me. But as I observed their body language, facial expressions, and the subtle shifts in their tone, I realized that our minds are capable of picking up these silent cues. This form of mind reading, though not literal, is about empathy and intuition. Imagine walking into a room where a conversation had just ended abruptly. There's a palpable tension in the air, and you instinctively know that something is wrong, even if no words are shared. This is the essence of emotional mind reading. It's about tuning in to the unsaid, the energy that reverberates through interactions. We all have this ability within us, though some of us might be more attuned to it than others. The first step in mastering this skill is self-awareness. By understanding our own emotional reactions and triggers, we begin to see parallels in others. Reflecting on my own experiences, I noticed that when I felt anxious, I would fidget or avoid eye contact. Recognizing these signs in myself helped me to identify similar patterns in others. Our bodies often betray emotions that our words attempt to conceal, and by honing in on these physical manifestations, we can begin to unravel the complexities of another's emotional state. Once we start to understand emotions through these subtle cues, the next step is developing strategies to support emotional well-being. I found that the key lies in validation and acknowledgement. Sometimes, just letting someone know that their feelings are seen and understood can make a world of difference. I recall a moment when a colleague seemed unusually frustrated. Instead of dismissing their anger, I approached them and gently said, "I can see you're really upset. Want to talk about it?" This simple act of acknowledgement opened the door for a deeper conversation and helped ease their tension. Another effective strategy involves sharing our own vulnerabilities. It can be incredibly disarming and comforting for someone to hear. I've felt that way too. It bridges the gap between us and the other person, showing them they're not alone in their feelings. I once shared my own struggles with imposter syndrome during a team meeting, and it was astonishing to see how this openness encouraged others to share their experiences, fostering a sense of collective support and understanding. Finally, never underestimate the power of active listening. This means truly being present in the conversation, free from distractions. I learned this during a particularly challenging period when a friend was going through a rough patch. Instead of offering solutions or diverting the topic, I simply listened. Sometimes all we need is a sounding board, someone who will absorb our words and emotions without judgment. A practical tip to enhance emotional well-being is to practice mindfulness. By staying attuned to the present moment, we can better manage our emotional responses and be more empathetic to others' needs. Mindfulness techniques, like deep breathing exercises or short meditative breaks, can help us remain centered and more perceptive throughout our interactions. Developing emotional awareness. Emotional awareness starts with becoming more attuned to our own emotions. For a long time, I ignored my feelings, brushing them off as trivial or inconvenient. It wasn't until I started paying closer attention to how I felt during different moments of the day that I realized the rich tapestry of emotions I experience. When I allowed myself to mindfully recognize what I was feeling, whether it was joy, frustration, anxiety, or sadness, I began to see patterns. For example, certain situations consistently made me anxious, while others filled me with happiness. Identifying these patterns helped me understand myself better and validated my experiences. Came next. Once I became more attuned to my feelings, the next step was learning how to manage them. Self-regulation doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means managing them in a healthy way. When I felt anger bubbling up, instead of snapping at people, I started taking deep breaths and giving myself a moment to cool down. Also, I learned to communicate my feelings more clearly. Instead of acting out of frustration, I would say, "I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. Can we discuss this later?" As I practiced these techniques, I noticed that my relationships improved and I felt more in control of my emotional state. Understanding one's own emotional landscape is a continuous journey. Sometimes, even knowing we need a break can make a significant difference. When my inner turmoil seemed unmanageable, I found solace in physical activities like running or practicing yoga. These activities provided a much-needed outlet. In moments when I was feeling particularly low, simply acknowledging that feeling and giving myself permission to rest or seek support from a friend became acts of self-kindness. By small, consistent efforts, emotional awareness transitions from a vague concept to a lived reality, shaping a more balanced and harmonious life. Chapter 11: Cultural Awareness. Recognizing cultural differences. Imagine walking into a room filled with people from diverse backgrounds. You make eye contact, extend your hand for a handshake, and find yourself met with a bow instead. Moments like these remind us of the rich tapestry of human cultures that envelop our world, can profoundly impact our interactions and relationships. Different cultures have unique ways of expressing emotions, showing respect, and conveying messages without uttering a single word. For instance, in some Asian cultures, a bow signifies respect and greeting, whereas in many Western cultures, a firm handshake is the norm. Understanding these variations can prevent misunderstandings and facilitate more meaningful connections. It's important to remember that gestures like nodding, smiling, or even personal space preferences can differ greatly between cultures. What might be considered a polite gesture in one culture could be perceived as offensive in another. For example, while direct eye contact is often seen as a sign of confidence and honesty in many Western societies, it might be perceived as rude or confrontational in some East Asian cultures. By educating ourselves and being observant, we can adapt our nonverbal communication to align with the cultural context we find ourselves in. This awareness not only demonstrates respect, but also fosters a more inclusive and understanding environment, is equally crucial. It's all too easy to fall into the trap of generalizing based on limited knowledge or exposure. Stereotypes can cloud our judgment and lead to unfair or inaccurate perceptions of individuals. Each person is a unique blend of their cultural background, experiences, and personal identity. Therefore, it's essential to approach every interaction with an open mind, devoid of preconceived notions. This means refraining from assuming that someone from a particular culture behaves in a certain way or holds specific beliefs. Instead, engage in active listening, ask thoughtful questions, and show genuine interest in understanding their perspective. Such an approach not only enriches our interactions, but also allows for deeper, more authentic connections. Understanding and respecting cultural differences enriches our lives and broadens our horizons. When we approach each encounter with curiosity and empathy, we pave the way for stronger, more meaningful relationships. One practical tip is to always observe and reflect on how people from different cultures communicate and interact. This will not only enhance your cultural awareness, but also equip you with the tools to navigate our diverse world with greater ease and sensitivity. Respecting diverse perspectives. When I think about the vivid mosaic of humanity, it always strikes me just how many viewpoints and beliefs exist within our global community. This isn't just an abstract idea, it's something palpable and integral to our daily lives. Embracing and valuing diverse perspectives means acknowledging that each person carries a unique set of experiences and insights. It's a bit like seeing the world through countless different lenses, each providing its own distinct hue and depth. I remember a time when I attended a cultural festival. Surrounded by vibrant sounds, flavors, and customs, I realized that every person there held a story worth listening to. Each conversation was a window into another way of understanding the world. This practice, I found, fosters a richer appreciation for life's multiplicity and cultivates empathy. It's about listening to understand, not to respond, and finding common threads amid our differences. Every perspective adds a layer of complexity and beauty to the bigger picture, an understanding that can profoundly change our interactions and worldview. Increasing cultural sensitivity, especially in our mind reader interactions, is another layer of respecting diverse perspectives. It's one thing to know that people have different viewpoints, but another to incorporate that knowledge into how we communicate and relate. Imagine trying to interpret someone's thoughts without understanding their cultural background. It's like trying to read a book in another language without knowing the alphabet. I remember working on a project with colleagues from various parts of the world. Our brainstorming sessions were initially challenging because what was implicit and natural to one person often needed explaining to another. Over time, we learned to ask clarifying questions, listen more deeply, and check our assumptions at the door. This practice made our collaboration infinitely more effective and enlightening. It wasn't just about avoiding misunderstandings. It was about honoring the diverse mental frameworks that each person brought to the table. By doing so, we could co-create solutions that were both innovative and inclusive, providing insights that no single perspective could offer on its own. In a world as interconnected as ours, understanding and respecting diverse perspectives isn't just a virtue, it's a necessity. One practical tip I've found invaluable is to approach every interaction with the mindset of a learner. Be curious and open, not just to the knowledge that aligns with your own experiences, but to the information that challenges and expands them. This attitude not only deepens our understanding of others, but also enriches our own perspective, allowing us to grow in ways we might never have imagined. Remember, every conversation is an opportunity to broaden your horizons and build bridges of understanding across the vast landscape of human diversity. Mindful communication across cultures. It wasn't until I traveled abroad for the first time that I realized how much I relied on unspoken cues in communication. In my home country, a simple nod or the slightest change in facial expression provided all the clues I needed to understand how someone felt. When I ventured into a culture foreign to me, I quickly learned that the signals I took for granted were not universally recognized. Imagine discussing business in Japan, where a slight bow indicates respect and attentiveness rather than agreement. My first few meetings were a series of missteps and misunderstandings, teaching me the importance of not just language, but the subtleties of nonverbal communication. Mind reading in communication requires intuition and the ability to read between the lines, which becomes particularly challenging across cultural boundaries. Each culture has its unique way of expressing feelings and covert messages. In some cultures, silence could be a sign of contemplation, while in others, it might indicate disapproval. I learned to ask more questions, seek clarification, and take my time to observe how locals interact with each other. It's an ongoing process of decoding and understanding, where flexibility becomes key. The richer your understanding of another culture's nonverbal codes, the more precisely you can tailor your communication to resonate effectively. Creating empathetic connections across cultural divides isn't just about learning new expressions or idioms. It's about building a genuine bridge of understanding and respect. The first step always starts with listening, really listening, not just to words, but to the intent behind them. One of my most powerful learning moments came when a colleague from India shared how deeply rooted family ties are in their culture. His stories weren't just about family gatherings or rituals. They spoke volumes about values, priorities, and emotional underpinnings. By listening with an open heart and mind, I not only gained a friend, but also cultivated an appreciation for a different life perspective. empathy plays a crucial role in overcoming cultural misunderstandings. When working with international teams, misunderstandings can arise from simple things like email etiquette or meeting norms. While an email signed off with regards might seem perfectly polite in one culture, it might feel cold and distant in another. Small adjustments like understanding preferred communication styles or being mindful of time zones go a long way. Being upfront about differences and discussing them openly fosters a climate of trust and respect. Recognizing our assumptions is another important step. We all carry cultural baggage that can color our perceptions and judgments. A young manager from Brazil once shared that being direct and assertive is sometimes perceived as disrespectful in his culture, unlike in the West, where it's often seen as a sign of confidence. This kind of insight challenged my own biases and helped me become more considerate and flexible in my approach. When we acknowledge that our way isn't the only way, we begin to see the beauty in our differences and create a pathway for effective and meaningful communication. A practical tip: when communicating with someone from a different cultural background, start by observing their body language, pace of speech, and how they structure their conversations. Reflect back what you perceive and ask for feedback. This not only shows that you are mindful and respectful of their culture, but also enhances the clarity and effectiveness of your interactions. Chapter 12: Self-Reflection and Mind Reading. Understanding your own emotional signals involves recognizing and understanding the subtle signs our bodies and minds give us. When I first started paying attention to my emotional cues, it felt like uncovering a secret language. My heart rate would increase slightly, my palms would get a bit sweaty, or I'd feel a tight knot forming in my stomach. These were signals that my body was trying to communicate with me, letting me know how I felt even before I could articulate it in words. It's like when you're watching a suspenseful movie and the background music changes. You know something significant is about to happen even before you see it. Recognizing these cues is just the first step. It's important to associate them with specific emotions. For instance, I realized that a tightness in my chest often signaled anxiety, while a warm sensation in my chest usually meant I was feeling joy or love. Journaling helped me immensely. I would jot down what I was feeling and any physical sensations I noticed. Over time, patterns began to emerge, and I became better at predicting my emotional states based on these early signals. This self-awareness acts as a mental weather forecast, helping me prepare for and manage upcoming emotional storms. Might sound like a challenging feat, but it's rooted in empathy towards oneself. Mind reading in this context means tuning into the nuances of our thoughts and reactions with an open, non-judgmental mindset. Whenever I felt overwhelmed, I would take a moment to close my eyes and mentally step back from the situation. I would ask myself, what are you really feeling right now? And why might you feel this way? This practice encouraged me to dig deeper, beyond the surface emotion, to uncover the underlying drivers. Maybe it was fear of failure, past experiences, or simply exhaustion. This self-inquiry paved the way for self-regulation. If I identified that my irritability was stemming from fatigue, I knew to prioritize rest. If anxiety was bubbling up due to an overwhelming workload, I would break tasks into smaller, more manageable pieces. Mind reading allowed me to pinpoint the core issue, enabling me to apply targeted strategies to address it. Another handy tool has been meditation. Even a few minutes of focused breathing helps to reset my emotional baseline, giving me the mental clarity needed to tackle the true source of my emotions. By regularly practicing these techniques, I found it easier to maintain emotional equilibrium, leading to a more balanced and fulfilling life. Developing these skills takes time and patience. It's essential to approach this journey with compassion towards yourself. Celebrate the small victories of identifying an emotional cue or successfully regulating your emotions. Remember that everyone has their own pace in this journey of self-discovery. Allow yourself the grace to learn and grow, knowing that each step brings you closer to understanding your own intricate emotional landscape. If you find it difficult initially, don't be disheartened. Keep practicing and use every experience as an opportunity to deepen your self-awareness. Your emotional signals are like a guiding compass, helping to navigate through the complexities of life, one feeling at a time. Applying mind reading to self-improvement. In our quest for personal growth, often the most challenging part is identifying the areas in which we need to improve. It's easy to overlook our own flaws or fail to recognize the patterns holding us back. Imagine if you could tap into the minds of those around you, understanding their unspoken thoughts and feelings. This capability can be very empowering when directed inwardly. By practicing what I'll call mind reading, we can become more in tune with ourselves and others. This heightened awareness can illuminate our blind spots and bring to light areas ripe for growth. I discovered this somewhat by accident. During a heated discussion with a close friend, I started to tune into her nonverbal cues, her slight hesitations, the shift in her tone. Suddenly, I saw not just her frustrations, but also my contributions to the dynamic. This epiphany opened my eyes to my tendency to interrupt and dominate conversations, an area I reluctantly realized needed work. By adopting an observational stance, paying attention to subtle reactions and body language, I began to uncover truths about my own behavior. But it's not enough to merely identify these areas. We need actionable strategies to foster change. One effective method is to leverage those mind-reading insights to develop concrete steps. For example, in recognizing my conversational habits, I made a conscious effort to ask more questions and really listen, allowing others the space to express themselves. Another scenario involved my work environment. By noticing unspoken stress cues from my colleagues, I understood I needed to work on my demeanor under pressure, leading to practices like mindful breathing and time management improvements. These strategies only succeeded because I remained empathetically engaged both with myself and those around me. It's crucial to be kind to yourself. Acknowledge your growth areas without harsh self-criticism. More importantly, celebrate small victories. With each step of applying these insights, from improved listening skills to better stress management, we become ever closer to our best selves. A simple daily journal entry, reflecting on interactions and internal responses, can serve as a potent tool for tracking and encouraging progress. Fostering personal growth. I've often wondered if it were possible to peek into someone else's mind for just a moment, how different our interactions with the world and each other would be. While literal mind reading isn't within reach, we do have the capacity to deeply understand and empathize with others, which can significantly aid our personal development. This skill, often referred to as mind reading in the realm of emotional intelligence, involves tuning into the mental and emotional states of those around us. The more we practice this, the better we get at grasping subtle cues and underlying emotions that people might not express outright. By honing this skill, I've found myself more attuned to not just others' needs, but also my own. Recognizing the parallel emotions and thoughts within myself has been transformative. There were times when I'd misinterpret someone's actions or words, leading to unnecessary misunderstandings and conflicts. However, by deliberately practicing empathy and seeking to understand others' perspectives, I began noticing changes. Not only did my relationships improve, but I also became more self-aware. Mirroring others' thoughts and feelings illuminated aspects of myself that I hadn't yet acknowledged. This journey of understanding others led to a deeper understanding of my internal landscape, which in turn fostered significant personal growth. If you strive to read minds, figuratively speaking, you open the door to unprecedented personal insights and growth. Every chance for self-reflection is an opportunity for transformation. Life has a way of presenting us with experiences that, if we choose to reflect on them rather than react impulsively, can be incredibly enlightening. I vividly recall a period when I felt stuck and found solace in journaling. Writing my thoughts down was like having a conversation with myself. It provided clarity on what was working in my life and what wasn't. When we take time to reflect on our experiences, we start identifying patterns, both positive and negative, that define our behaviors and choices. It's through these reflections that I uncovered long-standing beliefs and fears that were holding me back. I once read that journaling is like wrapping up your thoughts in a beautiful package. The practice allows you to step back, Unwrap your thoughts and dissect them in a way that paves the path for profound self awareness and change. This reflective practice soon became a habit, leading to numerous aha moments where I realized how past experiences shaped my current perceptions and reactions. As I embraced these insights, I found myself transforming in ways I never thought possible. Accepting that the only constant in life is change, I became more adaptable and resilient. Transformation emerged not just from monumental events, but also from the quiet, introspective moments where I chose to understand and grow from my experiences. So take every opportunity to reflect, as it may lead to the transformation you seek. Chapter 13: Mind Reading and Mental Health. Recognizing Signs of Emotional Distress. One day, I found myself sitting at a coffee shop, lost in thought. A young man at the table next to me caught my eye. He seemed to be in distress. His shoulders drooped, his eyes looked hollow, and he kept fiddling with his fingers. I began to wonder, how often do we miss signs like these in our daily lives? Identifying signs and symptoms of emotional distress isn't just about noticing the obvious tears or rage. It's about tuning into the subtler, often silent cries for help. Imagine a friend who used to be the life of the party suddenly becoming withdrawn, or a coworker who always met deadlines starting to miss them frequently. These changes might indicate something more profound. Emotional distress can manifest in various ways, such as sudden mood swings, changes in sleep patterns, or a noticeable lack of interest in activities they once loved. Often, these signs hide beneath the surface of a brave face or a forced smile. Mind reading isn't about intruding into someone's privacy. It's about being observant and sensitive to these shifts. It's about caring enough to notice when something feels off, even if the person hasn't openly shared their struggle. Once you've recognized that someone might be in distress, offering support becomes crucial. Imagine approaching that same young man at the coffee shop. Instead of asking a direct question that might make him defensive, I'd start with something neutral, something that shows empathy and genuine concern. I noticed you seem a little down today. Is everything okay? Sometimes people just need to know someone cares. Providing support doesn't always mean solving their problems, but rather showing them they're not alone. Share resources like contact information for therapists or support groups. If they're open to it, discuss strategies that have helped you or others in the past. Maybe suggest activities that might lift their spirits, such as a walk in the park or attending a support group meeting together. The key is to offer a listening ear and a compassionate heart without forcing anything upon them. Providing support with empathy. I remember the first time I had a friend open up to me about their struggles with anxiety. The room seemed to shrink, and my usual knack for finding the right words failed me. The silence between us spoke loudly of my fear of saying the wrong thing, but also of my yearning to offer something genuinely helpful. Isn't always straightforward. It involves a lot of active listening, genuine concern, and resisting the urge to fix the problem straight away. What I learned is that sometimes just being there, offering a quiet presence, is enough. When someone opens up to you, they often seek understanding rather than solutions. I found that phrases like, "I can't imagine how hard this is for you, but I'm here," can go a long way. It shows that you're not minimizing their struggle and that you respect the gravity of what they are going through. Starts with the small things. One of the simplest yet most powerful acts is to ensure that your space, whether it's your home, workplace, or a casual meeting spot, feels welcoming and non-judgmental. It's about more than just offering a cup of tea or a comfortable chair. It's about the nuances in our behavior, the warmth in our eyes, the patience in our voice, the genuine interest in our conversations. I recall making subtle changes in my approach, lowering my voice, slowing my pace, and allowing my friend to dictate the flow of our time together. These adjustments may seem minor, but they help in signaling to the other person that they are in a safe zone where they can be vulnerable without fear of being misunderstood or judged. If there's one practical tip that I can share from my experiences, it's this: be a mirror, not a fixer. Reflect their emotions. Let them see their feelings acknowledged and validated in your eyes and words. If someone says they're feeling overwhelmed, respond with something that reflects their statement, like, It sounds like you have a lot on your plate right now. This not only conveys empathy, but also helps in creating an environment of trust and understanding. Through such gestures, we build bridges of support that genuinely nurture mental well being, exemplifying that empathy is not just about understanding someone's pain, but also about sharing the space in which that pain exists. Promoting mental well being involves tuning into our own thoughts and emotions, as well as being perceptive of others. Imagine walking into a room where the energy feels heavy. Perhaps a friend is feeling down but hasn't said anything. By honing our ability to read between the lines and pick up on nonverbal cues, we can offer a supportive hand or a listening ear. It's not about becoming a psychic, but understanding the subtle exchanges that communicate more than words. Over time, these practices can deepen our relationships and foster a supportive network, creating an environment where positive mental health practices thrive. Starts with acknowledging that mental health is as essential as physical health. Consider setting aside time each day to check in with yourself, asking simple questions like, "How am I feeling today?" and "What do I need right now?" This self-awareness can cultivate a habit of self-care. For others, advocacy involves creating safe spaces where people feel comfortable discussing their mental health. Share your own experiences or struggles. Vulnerability can encourage others to open up. Normalize conversations about therapy, stress, and emotional challenges. By actively participating in these dialogues and offering support, we cultivate a community where mental well-being is prioritized for everyone. A practical tip to keep in mind is to practice mindfulness meditation. This can help you stay present and calm, making it easier to manage stress and connect with others empathetically. Spend just a few minutes each day focusing on your breath and notice how it transforms your thoughts and feelings. Over time, this simple practice can significantly impact your mental well-being and your ability to support others. Chapter 14: The Art of Empathetic Leadership: Inspiring and Motivating Others. Empathy is at the heart of inspiring and motivating people. When I take the time to truly understand someone's emotions, challenges, and aspirations, I connect with them on a deeper level. A time when one of my team members was struggling with personal issues comes to mind. Instead of pushing them harder on deadlines, I engaged in conversations to understand their situation. By showing genuine concern and offering flexibility, I witnessed a noticeable shift in their attitude and performance. They felt heard and supported, which reinvigorated their motivation and drive to excel in their work. As a leader, building a supportive and empowering environment starts with trust and openness. I remember creating a feedback loop in my team where everyone felt safe to voice their opinions and suggestions. Encouraging open lines of communication helped eliminate fear and fostered a culture of mutual respect. There were times when I empowered team members to take the lead on projects they were passionate about. I noticed how this empowerment boosted their confidence and resulted in innovative outcomes that exceeded my expectations. It's incredible what people can achieve when they know their leader believes in their capabilities and supports their growth. Building trust and understanding in leadership. Building trust within a leadership role is akin to nurturing a delicate plant. It requires consistent care, attention, and genuine intention. When I first stepped into a leadership position, I realized that trust wasn't something mandated, it was something earned. I began by being present. Taking time to listen actively to my team members became an essential aspect of my day. Understanding their concerns, aspirations, and the small nuances that made each individual unique helped bridge gaps and build a sense of camaraderie. I found that being transparent about my decisions and thought processes also played a substantial role. By explaining why certain actions were taken, I not only provided a clear sense of direction, but also demonstrated that I valued their insight and considerations. This approach fostered an environment where team members felt valued and understood, ultimately leading to a more cohesive and motivated workforce. The concept of mind reading in leadership isn't about being psychic, but rather about having an intuitive understanding of your team's needs and emotions. I have often relied on this intuitive capability to sense when someone is struggling, even if they are hesitant to voice their concerns. This requires a heightened sense of empathy and the ability to pick up on nonverbal cues. For instance, if a usually energetic team member becomes withdrawn, it might signal underlying issues. Approaching them with compassion and a willingness to help can make a significant difference in building trust and openness. This intuitive connection also extends to fostering collaboration. By understanding the strengths and preferences of each team member, I was able to assign tasks that not only played to their strengths, but also kept them engaged and passionate about their work. Creating opportunities for team members to collaborate in areas where their skills complemented each other led to more innovative and effective solutions. Opening channels for honest and open communication ensured that everyone felt included in the decision-making process, further solidifying the trust and understanding within the team. Encouraging team members to share their ideas without the fear of being judged and recognizing their contributions publicly builds a sense of pride and belonging. As leaders, being mindful of these emotional and psychological dynamics can profoundly influence the overall morale and efficiency of the team. Bringing everyone together through shared goals and mutual respect creates a strong foundation built on trust and understanding. Creating inclusive and supportive environments. I remember the first time I truly recognized the importance of inclusive leadership. It was during a team meeting where diverse voices were finally given a platform. The transformation was palpable. Ideas flowed freely, creativity abounded, and the sense of belonging among all team members grew stronger. It became evident that when leadership actively promotes diversity and inclusivity, everyone thrives. Encouraging leaders to embrace diverse perspectives starts by seeing it as an ongoing commitment rather than a checkbox. By truly valuing and respecting individual differences, leaders can create an environment where everyone's unique perspectives contribute to the team's success. One approach to promoting inclusivity is by being intentional in recruitment and promotions. By consciously seeking diverse talent and ensuring fair representation in leadership roles, organizations can pave the road to a more inclusive culture. Additionally, providing training on unconscious bias and cultural competency can help leaders and team members unlearn prejudices and build more inclusive practices. As a leader, showing support for diversity through actions rather than just words can inspire others to follow suit. It means actively listening to all voices, encouraging equitable participation, and recognizing the unique strengths each member brings to the table. I recall working with a team member who was going through a particularly challenging time. It was during these moments that I learned the significance of empathy and support. By taking the time to genuinely listen to their concerns and offering flexibility, I could help them navigate their personal difficulties without feeling isolated. This experience taught me that empathy in the workplace is more than just a nice to have. It's a critical component of a supportive environment. When team members feel understood and supported, their overall well-being improves, leading to increased productivity and team cohesion. Providing support doesn't always require grand gestures. Sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest difference. Checking in with someone regularly, offering a helping hand with their workload, or simply being there to listen. As I practiced these simple acts of kindness, I noticed a ripple effect. Team members began supporting one another, fostering a culture where empathy and assistance became second nature. Creating a supportive environment is about creating trust and showing that you care, both as a leader and a colleague. By making a concerted effort to understand and address the needs of team members, leaders can cultivate a workplace where everyone feels valued and empowered to thrive. Chapter 15. Practicing mind reading mindfully. Balancing empathy and self-care. I've always found the concept of mind reading fascinating. Trying to understand what others are feeling and thinking can be incredibly rewarding, but it can also be emotionally draining. To keep my emotional well-being intact, I've learned to balance the act of mind reading with self-awareness. It's about recognizing when I need to step back and recharge. On some days, I immerse myself in the emotions of others easily, but other times, I need to take a break to prevent burnout. This means giving myself permission to detach temporarily. For instance, I might spend an afternoon with a good book or stroll through a park, allowing myself to decompress. Another vital practice has been mindfulness. I regularly engage in activities like meditation and deep breathing exercises. These help ground me, making it easier to separate my feelings from those I perceive in others. It's almost like creating an emotional buffer zone. By grounding myself, I can return to the practice of mind reading with a fresh perspective and renewed energy. Paying attention to how certain interactions make me feel has become a key strategy. If I start noticing signs of emotional fatigue, such as irritability or feeling overwhelmed, I acknowledge these feelings and take proactive steps to care for myself. In my journey of balancing empathy, I've discovered that setting boundaries is crucial. It can be challenging to say no, especially when you care deeply for others, but I've learned that it's necessary for my own well-being. I remind myself that setting boundaries isn't about being selfish. It's about self-preservation. For example, I've made it a habit to limit my availability outside of work hours or during weekends. This time is sacred for me to focus on personal well-being activities such as spending time with family, engaging in hobbies, or simply resting. I also practice self-care by engaging in activities that I genuinely enjoy. Whether it's cooking a new recipe, taking a yoga class, or even indulging in a guilty pleasure TV show, these activities replenish my energy. Self-care can also be as simple as ensuring I get enough sleep, eat nutritious meals, and stay hydrated. These might sound basic, but they form the foundation of emotional resilience. I've also built a support system of friends and loved ones with whom I can share my feelings and receive support. It's a two-way street. We are there for each other, providing empathy and understanding while also respecting each other's boundaries. Remember, taking care of yourself isn't an act of indulgence, but an essential part of being able to care for others effectively. When you feel balanced and resilient, your capacity to empathize and connect with others deepens, creating a more fulfilling life for everyone involved. Take small steps daily to prioritize your needs, and over time, these practices will become second nature. Approaching mind reading with respect and sensitivity. When I first discovered my capacity for mind reading, it felt like unlocking a mysterious superpower. The ability to tap into someone else's thoughts is both exhilarating and daunting. However, the exhilaration quickly gave way to the weight of responsibility. It became clear to me that this ability was not something to be wielded recklessly. Just because you can hear someone's unspoken thoughts doesn't mean you should. It's crucial to approach mind reading with a sense of duty, ensuring that your actions don't harm others. Every mind is a sanctuary of personal experiences and private reflections, and invading that space without clear and justifiable reason can be profoundly unethical. Consider a scenario where you're privy to someone's deepest fears or insecurities. The ethical approach would be to understand that this information is not yours to exploit, but to handle with the utmost care. Acting responsibly means you don't use this knowledge to manipulate or control. Imagine listening into a friend's anxious thoughts about their job security. Instead of using this to your advantage, you choose to support them, perhaps offering words of encouragement or assistance, without letting them know you've peeked into their private anxieties. Responsibility in mind reading implies a commitment to protect and respect the emotional and psychological well-being of others, treating their innermost thoughts as you'd want yours to be treated. There's a fine line between understanding someone and intruding on their privacy. One paramount lesson I've learned is the importance of setting and respecting boundaries. Just because you can access someone's thoughts doesn't grant you permission to disregard their mental and emotional boundaries. Boundaries are fundamental for maintaining trust and respect in any relationship, whether with friends, family, or strangers. You wouldn't want someone rifling through your diary without permission, and mind reading should be approached with the same respect for privacy. For example, if you sense someone is uncomfortable in your presence, rather than probing their mind for answers, it's better to communicate openly and ask if they're okay. Moreover, it's important to remember that everyone's mind is their own private domain. Using your abilities to intrude without consent, even if done with good intentions, violates that person's right to privacy. Think about scenarios where mind reading could take an invasive turn, like uncovering someone's hidden trauma or personal secrets. Knowing these without the person's consent could be damaging, creating an imbalance in your relationship where one person holds too much power. To practice mind reading ethically, consistently remind yourself that everyone deserves the autonomy to share or not share their thoughts with you. This respect for privacy can build a foundation of trust, showing others that their mental sanctity is safe with you. The sensitivity and empathy needed for mind reading go beyond just listening to thoughts. They compel you to be judicious, compassionate, and consistently respectful of the mental boundaries of others. Keeping these principles at the forefront ensures that you use your abilities not for self-gain, but to foster understanding, support, and deeper connections in your relationships. Nurturing healthy relationships through mind reading. Mind reading, in its simplest form, is the ability to understand and empathize with others' thoughts, emotions, and intentions. When we talk about mind reading in relationships, we don't mean developing supernatural powers. Instead, it's about honing our emotional intelligence and being present enough to truly connect with those we care about. Imagine being able to predict what your partner needs even before they ask for it. This might sound like a dreamy concept, but you can actually achieve this level of understanding by paying close attention to the subtle cues they give off during everyday interactions. One key aspect of nurturing relationships through mind reading is active listening. This means genuinely listening to what the other person is saying without planning your response while they are still talking. It involves observing their body language, their tone of voice, and the emotions behind their words. When you do this, you gather a lot more information than just the literal meaning of the words spoken. For instance, if your friend says they're fine, but you notice a slight tremor in their voice or a glimmer of sadness in their eyes, it might be a good idea to check in with them a little deeper. Opening up a space for honest conversation can strengthen your bond by showing them you truly care. Think about a time when you felt someone really understood you without you having to spell everything out. It probably felt comforting, didn't it? That's the essence of mind reading in relationships. It's about creating those moments of deep understanding. This might involve noting what topics excite your partner, what moments make them anxious, or what little habits they indulge in when they're stressed. By picking up on these signals, you can respond in ways that make them feel seen and valued, ultimately enriching the relationship. Supporting emotional well-being is a two-way street. It involves taking care of your own emotional health so you can be there for others. Our emotional states can be contagious, so fostering a healthy emotional environment within ourselves can positively impact those around us. Practicing self-awareness is critical. This can be achieved through regular reflection, mindfulness practices, or even keeping a journal. When you understand your own emotional triggers and responses, you're better equipped to manage them and maintain a balanced state of mind. In addition to self-awareness, empathy plays a crucial role in supporting emotional well-being. Empathy is like a bridge that connects our world to someone else's. When you're empathetic, you're able to put yourself in another person's shoes and understand their feelings from their perspective. It's not about offering solutions, but rather about validating their experience and showing them they are not alone. This can be incredibly comforting during tough times. One practical way to support someone's emotional well-being is through validation. Often, when people share their feelings, they're not necessarily looking for advice. They might just need to feel heard and understood. You can practice this by acknowledging their feelings and letting them know it's okay to feel the way they do. Something as simple as saying, "I can see that you're really upset. That must be tough," can make a significant difference. Remember, nurturing healthy relationships is an ongoing process. Continually paying attention, practicing empathy, and validating each other's experiences creates a solid foundation for deep and supportive connections. A small gesture, like observing and understanding your partner's unspoken needs, or offering a listening ear without judgment, can go a long way in strengthening the bond you share. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the art of mind reading. Unlocking the Secrets of Human Connection by Mindful Literary. By now, you've gained valuable insights into reading body language, recognizing facial expressions, and honing your empathetic and intuitive abilities. Remember, the art of mind reading is not about manipulation, but about creating genuine, compassionate connections with those around you. Continue to practice these skills mindfully, respecting privacy and boundaries, and you'll find yourself navigating relationships with greater ease and understanding. Keep exploring, keep connecting, and may your journey of mind reading bring you closer to those you care about.